Hello and welcome back to Ad Astra Interea. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. um, it's been a while since I did an episode of this because it's been a while since there has been an update. Um, if you recall the previous episode, the human was trying to sort of convince Amicus and pretty much everyone else not to kill Alexius because, even though he's a traitorous cat, he doesn't want him to die because, death is too good for the cat. um, and while trying to do that, the parents intervened and pretty much cut off the human's voice, Marco's voice. And so he kind of got suspicious that the parents are interfering again. So he basically instigated something in order to basically speak to them again. And that's what you're about to see. So, also, if you haven't seen any of the episodes for Interea, there will be a link down up on the top right corner about, for the other 3 episodes that I did about this. So, you could watch those first before you start watching Interea. And also, Interea is like the in-between when Amicus takes the human on a tour of Ad Astra. And that, it's sort of like an addition to the main story of Ad Astra. So if you like Ad Astra, then, you should definitely read or watch this video of Interea. So anyways, let's begin and see what happens when he decides to confront the parents about what's happening. There's a certain amount of satisfaction that I feel, along with a good helping of fear. But I'm not letting them fuck things up a second time. I want real answers before this plan of theirs is put into action. Well, you've changed. You could say this is exactly what I wanted to happen. But I doubt I'll be able to get what I really want from them all that easily. And you haven't. I tried to adjust to the feeling of speaking without having a throat to speak with. At least, I can't be manually silenced with my synthetic vocal cords. The dragon stares back at me with his typical, unfazed, stoic stare. It is not I who makes the decision. I don't care. I'm not doing this again. What? Again, I cut him off. Do you have your own thoughts, feelings, stuff like that? There is a moment of silence that tells me that he does indeed have his own feelings. Feelings that are clearly annoyed right now. That is not important. It is when you're the only one who I can talk to about the parents. What's going on? Why are we doing this again? Doing what again? This whole song and dance where I listen to your don't do this, don't do that advice and then proceed to die. And then claim that you didn't foresee this happening or whatever. There is another pause, as if he's waiting to see if my outburst is finished. You never died. You simply came close to expiring, but were then saved by the parental benevolence. Silence follows once again, but this time it's from my end while I stare at the being in front of me. At least, I give him the feeling of being stared at. I haven't summoned up a body this time, not really being in the mood to do so. Instead, I just float in the void, watching him from seemingly every angle at once. It's hard to describe how things look in this state, but it's more of a feeling rather than being physically present. For the first time, I sense what feels like discomfort from him, or maybe it's embarrassment. Whatever it is, I rather enjoy it. So, what is it that you want? Why have you forced me to intervene? You already know the answer to that. Well, yes, but putting thoughts into words is important for clarity. Even the parents still communicate with words. It's an odd thought imagining the parents talking to one another. I guess it's hard to imagine anything involving them when I don't know where or even when they are. I sigh mentally as I focus on putting my concerns into words. at the same time realizing how the monitor is right and that I need to better organize my feelings to get my point across. Well, first of all, I want to know what the plan is. Why shouldn't I give that speech? I sense a flash of irritation mixed with what feels like a feeling of helplessness from the dragon. You know as well as I do that I cannot tell you that. I do know that, and I wonder if all of this really is futile. Then I'm not following the plan. With the way things turned out last time, it's clear you have no idea what you're doing. So, maybe if I do the opposite of what you want, this time I'll survive. I sense another burst of annoyance from the ethereal being. The issue, Marco, is that I myself do not know how the future might play out. I am only a messenger. Then ask them. That's the whole point of your existence, right? To communicate with the parents and act as a bridge between them and us? They will not tell me. Have you tried? Many times. Then I'm just going to do what I want, and I'll start by telling Alex what the plans are regarding his future. Marco. The monitor seems to heave a heavy sigh that I can almost hear. The parents only aim to help you. Killing you is exactly what they are trying to avoid. They did a terrible job of that last time. They are not perfect. Time is a delicate thing to try to manipulate. They may see it as a whole, but as soon as the disruption occurs, unseen consequences occur. When such things happen, there is less time to alter it back to a safe state. Then maybe I should disrupt things now, early on. That would give them plenty of time to fix the future kinks, right? Now you are being difficult for the sake of it. Well, yeah, I'm tired of this. It's bad enough that I'm practically a puppet, but it's a whole lot worse when the puppet masters don't seem to actually have control. The monitor doesn't say anything, and we just stare at one another for what seems like a long time. I don't worry about what's happening on my plane of existence. I imagine that time is moving so slowly that when I return, I'll be in the same moment, walking towards Alex. It is not my place. I see one of his fin-like ears twitch, as if he's heard something that I can't. Maybe a warning? If I were to hazard a guess, it would be that great harm would come upon you if you were to proceed with the speech in lupus. I feel like that's an obvious guess. Then why go against their advice? The monitor seems to have temporarily given up on waiting for me to form words. Well, to provoke this into happening first of all. Well, you succeeded, as you can see. Second of all, what about Alex? Why am I not allowed to warn him of what's happening? I do not know the answer to that, Marco, just that it is not in their plan. I do not know the answer to that, Marco, just that it is not in their plan. This time, I hear a growl under his words, and I'm a bit surprised by the amount of emotion that I'm eliciting from this creature. It reminds me that maybe he's more on my side of the bridge rather than the parents. I thought the parents value life above all else. Well, not if that life is a threat to a greater quantity of life. They took control of my voice. I should at least have the freedom to say what I want. The monitor closes his eyes in a way that tells me he's finally receiving direct communication. Then risk jeopardizing the millennia-long mission you are integral to. His voice is cold and flat. Finally, I feel fully defeated. Powerless, like I felt ever since Amicus kidnapped me from my bedroom in Rome. I am just a puppet, and if that's the case, it's hard to understand why I'm involved in any of this at all. The monitor opens his eyes and stares back at me, and I see what looks almost like sympathy. I know it may not seem fair, and it truly is, but the parents are making a great sacrifice in interfering as much as they are to guide you. That annoys me quite a bit, especially since it feels like I'm the one doing their dirty work. Yeah, seems like they're giving up a lot. They are. They wish not to do such things to a sapient, but you were chosen for this, and if you listen to their advice, things will be much easier. I shake my imaginary head. Yeah, fine. But I will warn Alex about what's going to happen to him. Give me your word that you're not going to allow him to be executed, and I will do what they want. It is not my... Then fucking ask. The monitor raises a brow, then sighs heavily, closing his eyes. There are a few seconds of silence before he opens them again. You have their word. Now, continue your mission. I only have a moment to feel some surprise at how quickly they give in before everything around me disappears. When I reappear, I'm back in the university, though I am no longer in the hall. Instead, I'm standing next to Amicus. Our guide seems to be in the middle of giving instructions once again, this time about our upcoming departure. It takes a second to reorient myself, and I'm a bit annoyed that I've been moved to a different time and place without my knowledge. How did that even happen? Again, the feeling of being a puppet comes to mind. I look over and see Alex standing quietly next to Cassius. If I had acted strangely in the time that's missing from my mind, there's no sign of that in the people standing around me. I'm still a little bit jarred by how quickly the parents agreed to my spontaneous demand. It makes me wonder if that had been all part of the plan. If the parents can sort of see into the future, I wouldn't put it past them to have set this all up. To make it seem as if Alex's life was in danger, and that they only took control of my voice so that I'd have the thought process. Then, knowing I would only demand that the traitorous cat's life be saved, it would lock me back into their plan. The parents only mean well. I quell my anger, knowing that showing my emotions now will only make me look unhinged to the others. I feel Amicus's light touch on my shoulder. Are you alright, Marco? Maybe I'm not doing such a good job of hiding my emotions. Yeah, I'm good. Bjorni raises his voice. Now, if that will be all, our ship is ready for departure. The dragon feels his being loosen with relief following the human's departure. It only lasts a few seconds before he turns his irritation on the entities in the plane above him. That was excruciating. The void answers with silence. I know you are listening. If I were you, I would consider answering at least some of his questions. I doubt this will be the last time he tries this. I'm sure you do, but your failure to keep him safe during his previous directive has left him full of mistrust, and rightfully so, I might add. Yes, you only mean well, but my own patience wears thin when I'm made to involve other sapients in your games. Oh, I am fully loyal to you and the plan. I am simply warning you that next time, I will not vouch for your benevolence. But consider revealing more to your children rather than just relying on blind faith and obedience. The ship we fly on is larger and less agile compared to the one that Amicus uses. It's clunky, and I worry a bit as it takes off, the vibrations and noises making me feel like it's about to break apart in midair. None of the others seem concerned though, Nefero using the time to fall asleep while Virginia seems glued to her tablet. Amicus sits across from me in his own seat, though there isn't much chance for conversation with how loud the aircraft is. He simply reaches across the aisle towards me and our fingers brush briefly before he pulls back and also closes his eyes to get some sleep before our landing. Though I try to do the same. It's difficult with how bumpy the journey is, and the one window I can see only shows a gray, overcast atmosphere. So I just sit back and wait. It's not technically a long journey, but because of how uncomfortable it is, it almost feels as long as my flight to Rome had been. Maybe a little more than an hour later, we're alerted by comm to brace for our landing. As the rumbling doubles, I wonder for a moment if accidents are common occurrences on Ad Astra. But then the shuddering interior of the craft comes to a sudden halt as our landing is surprisingly smooth. I follow everyone's lead as they undo their safety harnesses, managing to figure it out before Amicus has to help me. I'm ready for him to take my hand, reaching up halfway. Then I remember our conversation about not showing affection in public, and I drop it back to my side. As we exit the aircraft, I'm greeted to that gray, overcast sky along with the jagged, snow-capped mountains. Compared with the lush, green fields and forests near Ad Astra City, the scenery surrounding Lux is about as bleak as I expected. What I'm struck by most, however, is just how cold it is when we exit the aircraft. It's probably above freezing, but with how little clothing I have on, I gasp at the sudden change in temperature. I hear Amicus move up behind me. Did you sleep well? Not really. Amicus, I need more clothes than this. Hmm? The wolf seems confused at first, looking at me with furrowed brows. What's wrong? It's too cold. I need something covering my legs and arms. I notice the others looking over at me, and I feel myself getting a little bit red. It's strange that I should feel embarrassed about being underprepared like this when I knew nothing about the place we were going. But there's something about me being naturally weak as a human that makes me self-conscious. As far as I know, every sibling is equipped with fur that makes an environment like this one no problem for them to withstand. I shiver, and that's when Amicus finally seems to understand. Oh, yes, let's get you to a tailor. Should be one around here, even if it is Lux. What seems to be the issue, Amicus? Virginia looks as annoyed and impatient as usual, and right now I wish I hadn't said anything despite the fact that, judging by how cold it is during the day, I'll be dead during the night if I don't put on more layers. Marco needs extra clothing for the weather. He's already shivering. Virginia examines me, as if looking for another reason to become furious with Amicus, but seems to decide that this is something even she hadn't foreseen. Ah, of course! I imagined that the lack of fur would be a hindrance in such a climate. What seems to be the holdup? Is something wrong with the human again? Cassius shouldn't have the power to embarrass me at this point, but I'm more aware of how I look now that I'm part of an official delegation. But that's when I feel someone stand next to me, and I look up to see Nefero. Actually, I too am very nearly freezing. Really? You have fur, Nefero? Yes, I've noticed, but it is much, much shorter than yours. Though I can tell Nefero is trying to make me feel less self-conscious, I can see that his body is also shivering slightly, and I can hear it in his voice too. Not a problem. We'll escort the two of you to a tailor. A curfew was imposed on the city in preparation for the visit, thus it should not be a problem. In fact, it's best to do it now while you make your arrival speech, Amicus. The others will not need to be present for it, after all, aside from Cassius. Are you escorting them then? I was thinking that the Khemian ambassador to Ad Astra might be able to do that. He needs to become more familiar with his fellow Khemian anyway. Where? I'm here. Sorry for being late. Misplaced my damn my medication. I mean. A deep, gruff voice comes from up the trail to the landing site, and I look to see a new creature. Well, not completely new. Despite not having heard the voice before, I do recognize the Wolverine. I'd seen him at the university about a month ago, but only for a few seconds. Nefero seems to be familiar with him, though. Brunus, I was wondering if you'd been dragged to this little outing of ours. Of course I was. I'm not doing much else on this damn moon, after all. Fantastic! Brunus shall be your escort. Escort? For what? These two need a tailor. I don't know where the hell that... Moving on. The large bear makes brisk come on gestures to the rest of the group. Amicus looks unsure of what to do, but I give him a reassuring smile. I'll be fine. See you in a bit after your speech, okay? Alright. Sorry for not thinking ahead. I don't think any of us did. I'll see you again soon. Despite our talk earlier about PDA, Amicus pulls me into a quick hug before letting go. Okay, I trust you are in good hands. Love you. Love you too. Then the greater part of our delegation heads up another trail, towards a smaller grouping of buildings away from the city. What the hell? I don't know where anything in this city is except the restaurant I went to for lunch. And by the way, it was the blandest meal I've ever had. And since when did I become an escort service? I'm the goddamn Khemian ambassador to Ad Astra. Looks pretty suspect when they shove off the 2 Khemians at abandoned alien right at the get-go. Manners, Brunus. You haven't introduced yourself to Marco, the abandoned alien. Really, Nefero? You're freezing your ass off, and so is he. I think his lips are turning blue. The Wolverine's much less formal style has me feeling much more comfortable in his presence compared to most others I meet on this moon. Hello, I have to think for a moment since I'm so used to being referred to as Pet. The Emperor's companion. Nice to meet you. You already heard who I am, eh? Anyway, let's get you some warmth. Marco, do you need to find shelter? You look to be on the verge of hyperthermia. I shake my head as I stomp my sandal-clad feet. I'll be good once we start moving. Right, let's get a move on then. I do start to feel a little bit better as I copy the quick pace of my 2 furry companions, feeling more numb than cold as we enter the seemingly deserted city. Meanwhile, the 2 banter ahead of me. So, why the hell did you show up here without a heat source, Nerf? I had other matters on my mind, Brunus. Probably not now, eh? I assume you have drones. I'd rather not wear woven fashion. Of course I do. Wouldn't want to ruin your pretty looks, would we? Drones? Brunus glances back at me. Yeah, I know they wanted us to take you to a tailor or something, but Khemian climate drones let you control your own temperature and such. Oh. I didn't even think such technology existed. All I saw at the palace was the central climate control. We can get you clothes if you prefer that. Doubt the tailor would know how the hell to dress you though. Marco is simply not used to such tech. He's only been exposed to the woven way of life. Shame. Well, we'll show you the ways of Khemian comfort in a bit. Just gotta go get them from the flat they stuck me in. Where did they stick you, by the way? Believe it or not, I think it was a hostel. They cleared out a bunch of wolves right when I arrived. Seems a bit crude. The entire city is, even by Ad Astrian standards. Pretty sure I walked by a fucking public whipping before curfew kicked in. That makes me feel a bit on edge. While it doesn't surprise me, I've been sheltered by the palace since I got here, as much as it could be called a shelter anyway. But I've never really been exposed to the woven way of life. Brunus lowers his voice. I mean, they're practically barbarians, Neferu. Don't say that, Brunus. Besides, this area is particularly disadvantaged politically and economically. Neferu's tone is quiet, but stern. I know. It's just weird seeing it in person, you know? You also seem to be forgetting that the Emperor's companion is with us. Brunus looks back at me. Oh, yeah, sorry. You're with the Wolf Emperor, right? I wonder what he means by with, but I assume it's a lot considering it's fairly common knowledge. I clear my throat. Yeah, but you don't have to censor yourself in front of me. Brunus laughs. Well, it is my job to be delicate in front of important people, and I would consider you to be just that. I haven't known you for very long, Brunus, but delicate isn't how I describe anything you do. Why's that, Neferu? Because you're so... Neferu waves a paw lazily in Brunus's general direction. Well, you. What, 'cause I don't do things the traditional way? I did go to Sabite Just like you, Nefero, I'm pretty sure I got higher marks too. Academia isn't quite the same as the real-world application. Yeah, and I've led a few dozen negotiations that resulted in some of the most important galactic treaties being signed. The conversation's sudden turn from friendly to tense is a bit jarring. It's clearly about a lot more than Brunus's delicacy, and I wonder if this was already a point of contention between them. But as important as this, Brunus is quiet for a moment. You think your brother is trying to fuck this up for you, huh? I kind of wish we'd just gone to a tailor. Being inside someplace warm while being fussed over by another wolf is preferable to being alone with these two bickering Khemians. I did not say... Oh, you said it. You've more than said it. If you don't think I'm fit for the job, then just tell your boss. I'll gladly resign. Did you not want this job? I want it. I've trained my entire life for it. But if my own fellow Khemian doesn't want me here, then that's a piss poor start, don't you think? The silence really drags on now as we turn onto a street that's as empty as the last. I occasionally catch the sight of wolves peering from windows or balconies, but they quickly disappear as soon as I look up. Haven't you been here a few months, Brunus? It seems like you two are only just meeting. I feel the awkward silence, wanting to make myself more a part of the conversation rather than being a reluctant eavesdropper. Yeah, well, negotiations got delayed on the Khemian side, and then I got shipped out here to be part of this whole... I don't know, whatever the hell this is. This is the first time we've spoken in weeks. We spoke through the portal several times, Brunus. We should have been a bit more blunt about how you felt about me. I was simply asking a question. You're as informal as they come, and I just find it surprising that you were chosen. Listen, Nefero. Brunus turns to the jackal and we stop. Yeah, I'm here for a reason. I'm a political statement. I'm a reminder, a scar for the wolves to think about while they negotiate. Now that I'm focusing more on those scars and prosthetic arm, I'm suddenly realizing who this might be, and where he might come from. But I'm also damn good at my job, and I'll be honest when I say that you're not very good at yours. Nefero noticeably bristles, which is what surprises me most about all of this. It is very, very hard to get under Nefero's skin. I can count on one hand the number of times that I've seen it happen. I feel bad for Nefero, but he did provoke this argument, and I guess Khemians are supposed to be blunt. So, I'm here to help you and make this a success so that you're known for more than just getting your nuts cracked. I see Nefero's ears lower even more. Your brother might be an asshole, but he's not stupid enough to jeopardize the entire Galaxias just to make you more miserable. After a few seconds, I see Nefero bring his expression into a more neutral state, though I see his eyes flick towards me for just a moment, probably wishing just as much as I do that I wasn't here. I've got a vague idea of what's going on in your family, and I do think that you got the shortest end of the stick, but that's not important here. Try to lower your voice a bit, Brunus. We have spectators. Sure enough, woven heads have appeared at windows and balcony ledges, many of them staring wide-eyed at all three of us. Just know that I'm on your side, alright? Yes, alright. Now, let's move before you reveal more sensitive information to random passerby, shall we? Brunus turns and starts walking up the street again. Piff! They wouldn't know what the hell we're talking about, even if they could hear us, Nef. Again, don't say such things. I'm not saying they're stupid, just that they don't have the context to understand any of it. Hell, I bet the Emperor's companion is the same. Brunus turns to me for confirmation. Well... I look around, deciding that we're far enough away from the watching wolves to not be heard. I know about the situation with the Alliance, that there are issues between Nefero and his family, and I was actually wondering... Although Brunus isn't looking at me, I can see his ears twitch lower with every word, just as Nefero's are coming up. I'm not intending to make him look foolish, but I don't want to be making the impression that I'm a clueless ape either. I've done that for far too long on this moon. Are you one of the Wolverines from Deshereth? Sorry if I'm being too forward, but I know Khemians appreciate that style of conversation. Nefero side-eyes Brunus. Yeah, actually, one of the two still alive. I'm sorry to hear that. It was a terrible thing that happened. Brunus shrugs. Too young to remember much anyway. Surprised you know about it. Sorry, I'm learning about politics and diplomacy and all that still, so if I overstep boundaries, just let me know. I appreciate it, actually. I'd have thought that you wouldn't have learned about what happened at Deshereth from Adastrian history. We seem to finally reach the Wolverine's flat as we walk around to the back of the two-story building and towards a door that seems to lead down into a basement. I've supplemented it with Khemian recordings as well. Well, good on ya! We don't even enter the building as he rummages around in some metal crates right at the entrance before activating black, dome-shaped drones that float above us. I can already tell that they're far more advanced when compared to Adastrian drones, and I'm even more impressed when I feel a warm, cone-like shape pour over me. You can adjust the heat with commands from your lingua. I watch Nefero as he seems to squirm in delight at the feeling of his own drone's warmth. So, is this where we're gonna be staying? They both laugh. No, you'll have your own living space with the Emperor, likely far outside the city. Oh shit, speaking of, I think Amicus's Pugnu match is gonna start soon. Let's pick up the pace and get to the amphitheater. I feel the uneasiness return. Already? Don't we have meetings and speeches to do or something? No, this is what the city cares about most. If Amicus beats their champion, their only desire for representation will be destroyed. I honestly hope that Amicus is willing to take a fall for our delegation. I'd rather it not happen at all. Meh, they like this kind of shit. I'd worry more about one of those famous Lux riots happening while we're here. Their words don't offer much comfort as we make our way to the city center, the eyes of the peering wolves seeming to follow us the entire way there. Amicus stands in the middle of the amphitheater, still seething after Cassius's speech. By any other standard, it would have been a fine speech, something he himself would have been proud of if he had been the one to give it. For Cassius, though, it was subpar at best. He certainly said what he was needed to be said, but his usual fire and passion had been absent. While there are no large crowds due to the curfew, it was obvious that the Luxians were aware of how lacking the speech had been. Even now, the triumvirates appear slightly perturbed, and Amicus closes his eyes in quiet frustration as he imagines the thousands of citizens listening to the speech in their homes. Still, Amicus knows that he won't be scolding his brother after all is said and done. Cass had not been himself since his poisoning, and Amicus had suspected that what would have been his first speech since that accident would not go well. Amicus also imagines that Cassius, having to verbally pledge his support to him, only made it more difficult for his younger brother. But now, the exhibition match is already upon him, and because of that uninspiring speech, Amicus realizes that he must lose his match if he's to quell the city of rebellion's fury. As he warms up, stretching and practicing his stance, he watches his soon-to-be opponent do the same out of the corner of his eye. The old wolf, who had been smiling pleasantly off to the side for the duration of the introductory speeches, moves rather smoothly, and Amicus notes his unusual focus on kicks. It's not anything Amicus hasn't come up against in his past matches, and he has little doubt he can easily crush the old man if he caught him in a grapple. But the wolf is a hero, a champion in these lands. Amicus knows that the consequences of beating him in front of his own people might very well lead to a sudden, unlawful end to the curfew, followed by a riot that would endanger the entire delegation. Amicus glances over to where said delegation is seated, and he's a bit startled to see Marco settling down to watch. While he would have preferred that his human not see this match, it still fills him with a burst of energy, intending to show him how physically capable he is. Indeed, Amicus had shown him that plenty of times during their own physical encounters in the bedroom, but that required considerable restraint on his part. As Amicus straightens up, breathing evenly, the older wolf disrobes and finally steps forward to greet his emperor. Amicus already knows him to be Magistr, the unusual name having been given to him later in life, indicative of his status among the people of Lux. "Good day, His Imperial Highness. I am Magus, your chosen opponent for a friendly bout of Pugnu. I would be honored if you were to join me in our proud and ancient sport, if you are ready, Your Majesty." Amicus nods his head as the old wolf bows low to the ground, sensing only a genuine feeling of goodwill from the other wolf. "Of course, Magus. Shall we assume our positions?" Magus answers by falling into an odd stance that seems to emphasize striking over grappling as Amicus squats low towards the ground. Their styles seem to be in opposite ends of the spectrum in Pugnu techniques, but Amicus has dealt with such fighting styles in the past, especially from Cato. He doubts this wolf is able to match that warrior's speed and strength. Deciding to make the first move, Amicus rushes in for a tackle, knowing that a takedown would instantly turn the fight in his favor. While he still plans to throw the match, he needs to make it look good. Marco is watching, after all, and maybe his powerful charge will let the old wolf know that his impending win is artificial. His muscles propel his bulk forward, and in the back of his mind, Amicus just slightly worries that he might accidentally end the match by crushing the old wolf. His rush is brought to an instant and jarring halt, the halt emanating through his core before spreading out to his limbs, making him almost fold in half in midair. Pressure builds in his chest, then into his cheeks, which almost humorously swell up before his breath blasts from his muzzle so hard and fast that it makes his lips ripple. It only lasts a few seconds, but Amicus is at least able to understand that he had been viciously kicked in the stomach. So hard, in fact, that Magus's foot had nearly disappeared into his belly. Somehow, his opponent doesn't budge in the least bit, as he holds steady against Amicus's much larger bulk, and finally the younger wolf comes back down to land on weak ankles. Amicus then folds up on the floor of the amphitheater, deafening silence ringing in his ears, as he heaves several times, wondering how he had been affected so badly despite being tensed and ready. He manages to keep calm, waiting for his breathing to return to normal, having experienced similar situations during his sparring matches with his father and then with Cato. In fact, not since Cato has he felt such breathless agony, but even he had never managed to land such a blow when Amicus had been prepared. The wolf tries not to look towards his delegation, pushing the knowledge from his mind that his human is watching. Finally, he begins to breathe normally, and manages to pull himself back up to his feet, trying to muster back up his will to fight after having it knocked from him. The older wolf had been slowly moving back and forth in a half circle in front of Amicus, making himself look busy, clearly avoiding a possible grappling situation. The humiliation of that first blow warms Amicus's cheeks and ears, its memory leaving his belly feeling hollowed out. Maybe throwing the match isn't the best idea, not after being downed with such ease, and knowing this is being broadcasted to all of Ad Astra. Amicus sets his expression into an iron mask of stoic readiness, this time waiting for the old wolf to come to him. Magus does so slowly, and the second he's within reach, his foot flies up again. Time slows for Amicus as his eyes flick to the sudden movement. The wolf knows he's not in his best shape, his training time having been completely swallowed up by imperial duties. Still, some skills never leave one's mind after learning them. He's reminded of this as muscle memory kicks in to catch the lightning-quick attack. Instinct takes full control and Amicus begins to prepare his next attack, one which will bring the fight to the ground where he knows he'll have a significant advantage. The man can kick, that's for certain, but even now, Amicus can feel his own muscles and strength overcoming anything the older wolf tries to bring against him. His foot is stuck, and he isn't getting it free unless Amicus lets him. The younger wolf spots the one foot the other wolf is balanced on, preparing to sweep it from under. Time slows once more, but this time Amicus can't do much as the older wolf uses the support Amicus is giving him and swings up the other foot. Both of Amicus's paws are occupied. He can only watch as the foot sails his way. Amicus has just enough time to realize it's over when Amicus's vision flashes white, the foot whipping into his muzzle so hard and fast that it doesn't hurt at all. Instead, a numbing feeling is left behind as the younger wolf is stunned. Time is still slow, dragging out his defeat longer than he'd like. He has a moment to see his crown flash in the dull sunlight, Amicus deciding that it's rather appropriate for how badly he had been beaten. Again, Amicus is hit with not just a wave of pain, but one of familiarity. The feeling of confusion, followed by squinting at the sky. It had been a long while since he had been knocked unconscious, and he doesn't miss the feeling. He does savor it for a moment, though, having enough sense to know that something humiliating is waiting for him on the other side of consciousness. Seeing Magus, Amicus is reminded of what happened, and he groans internally. It hadn't been a terribly embarrassing fight. It lasted about as long as an average match, though the kick at the beginning was certainly something that would be hard to live down. It would likely be replayed on the news channels over and over, similar to Nefero's clash with Cato. Sure, he could ban it, but that would only confirm him to be as humiliated as he feels right now. It's made only worse as Magus approaches and kneels before him. Your Imperial Highness, are you alright? Amicus stares for a moment, trying to judge the other wolf's intentions. That's important now that he's sure to become a part of their delegation. But again, rather than sensing any malicious intent to further humiliate the younger wolf, Amicus only senses genuine feelings of respect. Quickly, the Emperor rights himself, taking his crown from the other man. Thank you. Good spar, Magus. Indeed, your strength was quite formidable. I very nearly lost the match at the end there. Amicus tries to smile through the aftermatch pleasantries, finally sparing a glance towards Marco. His expression is hard to read, but when he catches Amicus's eye, he gives him a smile. It's tight and concerned, but it still surprises the young wolf. It's as if he's trying to let Amicus know that it's okay he lost, that he's only concerned for his well-being. Still, he can't stop his muzzle from burning slightly, even as he stretches a paw towards the human, indicating he should join him in the amphitheater. I see Amicus's invitation to join him and quickly take my place by his side. I can tell he's embarrassed right now. Of course he would be after what happened, but I'm just glad to see that he's mostly okay after the brutality of the fight. I know him well enough to keep my concern and affections in check for now, instead letting everyone play it off like nothing happened. The others follow me, introducing themselves one by one to the older wolf. While Virginia had watched the entirety of the fight with hardly any expression, I was a bit surprised to see Cassius lower his eyes when it became clear Amicus was losing. I assumed that he might take pleasure in seeing his Emperor brother get trounced, but he just seemed to have been made uncomfortable by the whole thing. Meanwhile, Nefero had watched with an expression that seemed on the verge of disgust, while Brunus visibly cringed and shook his head throughout. As for me, I just feel relieved weakness flooding through my limbs after the surge of adrenaline during the fight. It was a feeling of dread and terror that I had felt a few times, specifically when seeing Amicus and Cato fight. It makes me wonder if I can ever watch another Pugnu match again. Amicus places his heavy paw around my shoulders, grunting slightly as he pulls me into his side and fixes a tight smile on his face. Anyway, we're glad to have you as part of our delegation, Magus. Glad to be part of it. I only regret that it was under such circumstances. Amicus shrugs his shoulders quickly. If it was under the circumstance of friendly sport, then I am glad to have experienced it. Indeed. Magus smiles pleasantly, and despite his brutality in Pugnu reminding me of Cato, he doesn't seem anything like that old wolf. Indeed, luckily the itinerary anticipated your inclusion. thus plans should remain the same. Would you like to go over the schedule with me? Oh, definitely. I trust that you remember the way to the villa, Amicus. The drones have been instructed to keep anyone from following you and your companion. Of course. Thank you again for that, Magus. I look forward to our formal meeting tomorrow. Amicus nods his head at Magus, and I take that as my cue to bow to the old wolf. He responds by making sure to bow lower than me. Yes, until then, your majesty and his companion. With that, the formalities seem to end, and I feel Amicus steer me towards one of the exits to the city square. After we pass under a few archways, along with a few more eyes peering from windows, we emerge into the outskirts of Lux. The cold grey walls give way almost instantly to the rolling hills and jagged mountains of the tundra beyond. I feel Amicus practically deflate against me, and I feel a wave of sympathy over my wolf as I realize how much the fight must be weighing on his mind. I raise a hand to touch his bulky, furry arm that's already around me, not saying anything for now, waiting for him to talk if he wants to. He grunts again, rubbing my arm. Well, aren't you nice and warm? He turns his eyes up towards the drone above me. Khemian tech, eh? Yeah, that Ambassador Brunus gave it to me. Ah, yes, he is an amicable man. Was your time with him pleasant? I shrug. It was alright, not much going on considering the city is basically a ghost town. Yes, they are rather strict with their curfews and such. It's the product of being such a rebellious city. I see. We walk in silence for a few minutes, and I look ahead to the neat layout of the villa at the end of the trail, maybe a mile outside the city gates. Around us are a few other isolated buildings and trails, maybe something what looks like a farm, though I have no idea what they might grow up here. Still, I can't see anyone else around us. As it becomes clear Amicus isn't going to say anything, I give in. So, are you feeling okay? Should we have a doctor look at your head? I focus on Amicus's physical condition, rather than on the state of his pride. No, of course not. Just a bit sore here and there. Okay, that's good, I guess. It's quiet again, then Amicus sighs. I'm sorry. I sigh as well. For what? For my failure in combat, I underestimated my opponent, but I promise to become stronger in the future. But why are you apologizing to me? Because, as your partner, your future husband, I not only embarrass myself in these situations, but I risk doing the same to you. I absorb that, keeping my frustration at those words in check. Amicus, it's not that I'm embarrassed. I was terrified for you, and now I'm relieved that you seem to be okay, and that it's over. That's all I feel right now. You must be at least slightly embarrassed for me, no? No. This time Amicus sighs in frustration. Sometimes I think you only say things because it is the correct thing to say in your culture. You emphasize me being an individual and dismiss your own feelings as unimportant. I stay quiet. Marco? Yes? Do you have anything to say to that? I don't know, I'm just not sure what to say. Is what I just said that bad? Maybe it just feels like you're dismissing your own feelings right now. How so? By accusing me of saying things because of my culture, and not because it's how I actually feel. Watching you fight, it was almost as bad as watching those fights you had with Kato. I couldn't care less about being embarrassed right now. Oh, well, you know the situation is completely different. Yeah. Our conversation seems to end there, the villa only a few minutes away now. I'm okay with letting it go. I'm too tired to argue right now. Amicus squeezes me to his side again. Well, listen, the hard part is over here in Lux. Over the next 2 days, we can do whatever we like. I feel like I've heard Amicus say that more than a few times, and it always seems to not quite work out that way. You sure some of your duties won't pop up? Here and there, but I've arranged them to call me through my portal as much as I struggle to use one. Do you have things planned? Yes! Tomorrow, we visit the famous natural springs in the mountains. Just us two. That does sound kinda nice. Alright. And Marco, I'm sorry again. I'm simply sulking after being beaten so badly. I'm not going to ruin this trip. I look up at my wolf, letting the hurt I'd felt a few minutes ago fade into the background. I'll hold you to it. For now, I assume there's a bath in the villa. Then maybe I can give you a massage like the old times? Oh, well... The wolf rubs his stomach. Definitely wouldn't mind that right now. It's a date then. Indeed. Amicus stops at the door of the villa, then leans in to kiss me, and we kiss for a long time with no prying eyes around to disturb us. To be continued. Poor Amicus getting his butt handed to him by the old wolf, who's looking pretty good, for being, assuming, like, super old. Well, he's not as old as the other old wolf from Khemia, but. Anyways, I'm very happy to finally get to see Brunus again. He's my favorite character from Khemia, and it's a joy to voice him because he's always like super like, and he smokes space marijuana. um, but yeah, if you haven't either read or heard of Khemia, I will put a link down in the description for it. There's only like 2 or 3 episodes because it went on hiatus, and it's tied to Ad Astra. It's what goes directly after Ad Astra, and Interea is what goes right before the end of Ad Astra. So it's like DLC, I guess. Um, and again, if you haven't seen or even played Interia yourself, I have the playthrough which will appear on the top right corner again. um, but yeah, I'm so happy to see Brunus. Oh, my Space Wolverine, I miss you. I wish that they will make a one of those stuffed animal Brunus things like they did for Amicus, which I own. I have one of those. But I doubt that they will. They might make it of Nefero before they ever make one of Brunus, but like I also want a Nefero one. And I want my Rannoch one to arrive, but it's so many like supply things that are going wrong with that stuffed one. But I can wait. I can wait until February. Hopefully, when it ships out by February. It'll probably arrive by May for my birthday, but whatever. Anyways, what was I saying? Brunus, yeah, Brunus is awesome. Scipio is also good, but nah, it's Brunus, and then Nefero and Amicus, and then Rannoch. Who else would I want a stuffed animal of? I would want one of Carl from Echo and Leo, even though Leo's he's crazy, but like I like. There's a meme. If I can find it, I'll put it on here. It's that like that he's like covered in so many red flags, but that's okay because my favorite color is red, and it's like a picture of Leo, and Leo's red. But yeah. Who else? Obviously, I would want one from Chad and Fred from Home Somewhere Else. Wink, wink, Zordy. And I would want one of Tyson from Password, and maybe Hoss also because I like lions and tigers. And speaking of tigers, I would probably want one of Lars from After Class. And who else? Who else could they make a stuffed animal of? That's a visual novel that I've done. Ooh, Lance from Remember the Flowers, which, if all goes well, you'll actually see that new episode before you see this one. So yeah. Who else? Oh, that's Eating Reach. So while I would like one of Oswald, I would prefer one of Max because I like tigers. And I don't care if Max is like super overly aggressive with Adrian, but like I still prefer Max over Oswald. Who else? I mean, there's also the raccoon, but I would go with the tiger with Max and Oswald from Eden's Reach. But yeah, anyways, back to Interia. So yeah, you guys got to be reintroduced to Brunus, my favorite character in the whole world, alongside Carl from Echo, and you guys also got introduced to the new character who will also be part of the delegation, Magus, who hopefully doesn't turn out to be, an evil wolf like Kato. And I'm pronouncing Kato instead of Kato because I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be pronounced Kato. Who else? Well, yeah, that's pretty much all that happened. Amicus got his butt handed to him really bad. It was funny, to be honest. He needed to be taken down a peg, to be honest. But yeah. I guess that's it for now. And thank you all for watching / listening. And if you would like to play Interia yourself or Ad Astra or Khemia, there will be link. No, you can find it over on itch because I can't say that there will be links down in the description because I can't put itch links to be safe. But I can't link you. I can link you to the Twitter page for the Echo project, which will have direct links to the itch pages of all of their current projects, which will actually include now Glory Hounds, which I was talking about all this time last year. It's finally going to be released, and it's a whole new story that, is technically in the... What universe is it? It's in the... Well, it's in the Echo universe, like the main Echo universe, but it takes place in Batavia, in Shippersburg, which is the hometown of Cliff Tibbets from the Smoke Room, because it's the writer for the Smoke Room is also writing Glory Hands. So yeah, it has the comic visuals and everything. So I am looking forward to it, and hopefully you guys are too, because I'm gonna end up reading it too. Ha! Superheroes. Anyways, what else? And if you would like to get earlier access to builds of all of the Echo projects, I will put a link down for their Patreon where you can get early access to that stuff. And, you wouldn't have to wait for me to read it like a month later after it becomes public. So yeah, I guess that's it for now, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye. Ah, Brunus. How I miss you.